Welcome to the Wednesday edition of Filmmaker IQ Live, when I get to hang out with you guys and chat about whatever comes to mind. So, the topic today is the XY problem, which is something that I have just discovered. Let me make sure I'm live before I go too deep into this, because I've done this before where I will go live and it won't be going through. Hi guys, Retro Machine, Victor Bart, and Arseny Moon. How you doing, guys? Welcome to the stream. Looks like everything's working fine. Let me know if I think the audio should be clear. Oh, there was a focusing there. It's starting to focus. Ooh. Anyhow, okay. So, for better or worse, my life has sort of turned into a help desk. It's like I have all the Facebook groups that I've joined, the filmmaking groups, the A10 mini groups, I've done a lot of 3D printing lately, so I've joined a lot of 3D printing groups. But it feels like social media to me is nothing but help desk. The people asking questions, and then being my personality, I tend to want to help answer those questions. And that's kind of what Filmmaker IQ, what about just a film is better, live check. What's up from White Rhino? Oh, awesome. Wow. So yeah. So help desk has sort of become my life. And the one term I've discovered very recently is the term XY problem. And somebody on one of these boards mentioned it. And I looked it up because I didn't know what an XY problem was, and I found it fits everything. So an XY problem is when the user has a problem X, and they're trying to solve their problem. And what they do is, in their limited research, they figure out, oh, if I solve Y, I think I will solve X. And so they go on the forums asking about Y. The problem is, solving Y doesn't necessarily mean you solve X. So a lot of boards are flooded with people asking questions about how to solve what seems to be rather unimportant issues, and they're actually they're asking the wrong questions. Well, I'm just checking out your questions. Yeah, IQ, another dark question. So. And I was thinking, and like every time I go on these boards, so last week we had somebody asking me like questions like, how many hours do you need to study to become a filmmaker? That's an XY problem. They want to be a filmmaker, and they're asking a Y problem, which is how many hours of study does it take? Doesn't matter what the Y problem, it doesn't solve your X problem. And I think the most oh, does it look like an earthquake when I shake my hand? It's probably because the autofocus is trying to pull focus on the front of the camera or something like that. I'll just have to make sure not to move my hand. Let's see. Yeah, it's trying to it's focus breathing, I think. Well, I'll try not to do that. I'll keep my hands to myself. I'll try to. Oh, there it goes. See, that's what it was. I'm in California. It might be earthquake. Maybe it's just I'm not feeling the earthquake. Yeah, it's autofocus going funky. Well, hopefully that'll kind of stable out. Maybe I won't move so much. Maybe that'll kind of keep us in line there. So the ultimate XY question. Yeah, Arseny says another example. How do you shoot digital like film? You shoot it on film. The other question that I get: how do I make high frame rate look like 24 frames a second? You shoot it on 20. Well, that's not necessarily an XY problem. It's something a little different. I think the ultimate filmmaking XY question is, what camera should I buy? That's the ultimate XY question, because and I've seen like lots of well-meaning people try to write a treatise about like how to approach the what camera should I buy question, and I kind of, after being online for I guess I've been help desking online filmmaking stuff since 2000. When was MySpace around? 2006. So being around for almost 15 years online, I've discovered that there is no such thing as a answer to what camera should I buy, and in fact, it is absolutely fruitless to even think that you can begin to answer that question, because it is also ultimately an XY question. What camera should I buy? Well, what's your problem? What's the problem you're trying to fix? Or what's the thing you're trying to do? Are you trying to make a film? Are you trying to start a video event business? Are you trying to shoot weddings? Are you trying to shoot corporate video? Are you trying to shoot, a documentary? These are all XY questions. So the camera, what camera should I buy? Not necessarily, not everything is an XY question. Every time I answer anything on the internet, if I write anything about any topic, I always feel like I have to be a lawyer about it. I have to cover all my bases. Not every question is an XY question. Sometimes you say, what camera should I buy? You're really asking for a recommendation of brands to research. Like I'll say, since I'm doing a lot of 3D printing, I'll say, well, what filament should I be looking at? What filament should I buy? If you're, well, that's also the next white question. Phrasing it properly would be what branch, what should I be aware of? That's a better phrasing. But people, these are questions asked by people that are not familiar with the topic, so they're going to ask the most basic stuff. And then, of course, being, my experience of help desk, the advent of Google has basically destroyed any kind of online forums, because people that are competent will Google it and they will find the answer. Now, part of the problem of Googling something is knowing what to ask. That's the very first. It's like what happens when you ask the machine, like, what's the meaning of life, everything, and everything in it, and it says 42. Well, because you didn't ask the right question. It's the same exact thing. You need to know what question to ask Google in order to get the response that you're looking for. So there's that. So I'm saying the competent people, the people that are smart and can figure it out, will Google it, and they will read it, and they will learn about it. It's all the people that can't Google it or don't know how to Google it. So you're getting all the help desks are basically, hate to say it, you're scraping the bottom of the barrel on these forums where they're asking, like, how do I make a cut? There are a few forums I belong to where they have high level, like, professional people asking questions like, hey, anybody experience this? Anybody experience that? I do follow some of those, and those are where you kind of learn some things about how things work, because other people are experiencing a problem, and you're like, oh, I didn't realize you could have that problem. So those are interesting to follow. But the more public, open platforms, open forums where anybody can ask anything, yeah, bottom of the barrel scraping, like just the questions are like the most basic stuff, and it's mostly XY questions. How do I do this? No, you don't really want to do that. You really want to do this. Another thing I follow is on Reddit is I follow the copyright subreddit, and there's a lot of XY questions on sub. First of all, no one really understands. The people that ask questions are like have no comprehension of what copyright is. Like the other day, somebody was asking, how can I copyright something that is not always visible? What? You want to copyright something that's not always visible? So it's like, well, it's it's an art installation, but I want to copyright the art installation. I'm like, wait, what? You want to copyright? So you can copyright a sculpture. Just take a bunch of pictures of it and then submit that to the office and say, hey, this is I want to copyright this sculpture, and then you have copyright over that sculpture. But he's like, I want to copyright the environment. Like, you can't copyright the environment, dude. But ultimately, back and forth, it came down to, I want to preserve this space for all time. Well, you don't copyright it. That's not the point. You don't copyright something to preserve it. You copyright something to copy it, to get control over obviously copyrights, at the point of creation, but you register a copyright to protect copies. So if you want to preserve a space, you don't copyright it. So XY problem. Okay, so that's my rant. That's my angry rant. I am on here early today because, again, people come and go on my chats. They watch old live streams and say, hey, when do you do these? I always do them. I try to do them on Wednesdays. That's my goal, is Wednesdays. The problem is I can't really tell you what time. So I'm going to bounce around different times and see, and I'm going to experiment what works and what doesn't. Also, my schedule is so weird and flexible because I'm taking care of my mom. She's got to go physical therapy today at 1:30. I got to be back, so I got to figure it out. I'll do this in the morning. That way I can do other stuff in the afternoon. I do have a video coming out where I'm just waiting for, got a sponsorship from Hollyland, the wireless transmitters. They're really good products. The Hollyland, I just happen to have one here as a demo. They're really cool if you're looking for wireless. But in my video, I'm talking about all the elements that you're going to need to do a multi-camera stream or multi-camera live production. So they're multicam live event video, and there's a lot. You think, oh, it's really simple, but it's like, the thing with multi-camera live production, it's like you have to bring everything with you that you would normally have in an edit bay, but it has to be with you, and it all has to work at in real time, and it has to connect everything. So it's actually I think it's a pretty good video. It's more of a basics video. It's more of an like wrap your head around the concept, and then I'll let the other guys who do really great like videos about how to actually operate the things kind of take you to the next level to actually tutorializing it. But it's kind of a larger, just a comprehensive view of multicam. So be on the lookout for that. And I want to work on some other videos, try to get back in the swing of things. My whole life's been kind of weird recently. Taking care of my mom. I know I always use that as an excuse, but it is become a huge part of my life. And so I'm doing that, and I got into 3D printing, which is basically addiction. I think there should be a 3D printing anonymous, where we can all just get together and just say, hey, I bought a 3D printer and I need help, seriously, because that damn thing's been running for 24/7 for the last 3 weeks. And then I got myself a resin printer. So now because I like making models. As a kid, I loved making models, and as a grown-up, I kind of I didn't stop doing it for a long time. And now, like, I can print my own models. I can even design my own models. Oh my goodness, I'm gonna go crazy. So anyhow, that's enough off of me here. Let's talk about your guys' chat. Video Bite says, how do they make planet effects in old movies like Alien? Oh, good question. This is a great question, because if you want to go back to the older movies, like 2001 is a great example. How did they make Jupiter and Saturn? So the reason, if you know the story, Arthur C. Clarke's original version of 2001 has the mission not to Jupiter but to Saturn. Saturn was where they sent the ship to go and look at the other signal from the I know, spoiler, right? The other monolith is located in Saturn. I think maybe because Saturn, I don't know why Saturn, but there was a reason why Saturn. But the reason why they changed it in the movie was because they couldn't make it convincing rings. They couldn't make convincing rings back in the day. So that begs the question: how do they even make the convincing Jupiter? They figured they could make Jupiter kind of convincingly. Well, it's actually very similar to the way they make the Stargate. If you guys are fans of this channel, you've probably seen the Stargate video with all the streaks of lighting. They did the same thing with Jupiter. In fact, what they did was they took a camera and they did a long exposure, but they turned the streaks on its side, so it created this streaky circle. And that's how they made Jupiter. Now, that's going back in the 1960s. Obviously, there are other ways of making planets, and it's really just a matter of painting. It's literally Bob Ross. That's how they did a lot of the planets. And then Rocket Boy says matte painting. M-A-T-T. Mate painting. Matte painting, mate. No, yeah, matte painting is how they did it. It was just on glass, and then if you paint on glass and then you light it from the back, you can shoot film of it, and it looks like the real thing, or it looks fully lit. And that's how matte painting was basically how they did all kinds of effects, from going back to like the old epic movies, like what's the name, Ben-Hur, and all the huge crowds, those big Roman vistas and all that stuff. Oh, is it the autofocus has a strange effect of making him sound loud? I don't think it's the autofocus. I think it's just my mic, because I'm close to the microphone, and I do have what's it called, auto gain on it right now. Yeah, I think what's happening with the frame focus is that we're probably right on the edge of focus, or something's going on. Or maybe, I bet you what I have, I think I was touching the screen, and I think I put the focus, it probably is focusing right like down here somewhere, or maybe on my shirt. So as I kind of move, it's like, where's the focus? And then, oh yeah. So Arseny says, what blew my mind that Africa in where does it go? What blew my mind in Africa in the beginning of the Space Odyssey was all front projection of a photo. Oh yeah, that's cool. Front projection is something that I would like to do a video on. Although there was a channel out there that did some stuff for PBS digital studios. I forget the name of his channel. I used to like his channel a lot, and he did a lot of he did a front projection video, which is pretty cool. Should probably approach that again and do that. Let's see. There we go. Hopefully it's not an ex-wife question. For a person wanting to learn the basics of filmmaking, do you have any recommendations for online program to purchase? Well, that's not an ex-wife question. That's a good question. So if you want to learn the basics of filmmaking, really, I don't think there's any better way of learning filmmaking than to actually do it. And I know this is advice that is not uniquely my own. Literally every single filmmaker teacher on YouTube, I know Film Riot for sure pushes the idea that you need to go out there or like write film repeat or something is their slogan. Everybody says this, and there is no way around it. You can't learn a program, you can't learn anything, you can't buy anything, you can't do anything other than just to go out there and make something. It doesn't have to necessarily be film. I know we're in California, at least, we are on the end of our pandemic days, and I know you tune in for the pandemic update from John on California, but we have just announced that June 15th we will be lifting everything. So, except for masks will still be required for, I imagine, probably for at least a month or two afterwards. Anyhow, so once the things let up, go out there and make a film. And it doesn't have to, or even go out there and make a YouTube video. Even making a video or a live stream, or just make something. And you will learn. You will learn the process. You will learn everything. So, manual focus, please. Well, I could, okay. 5 seconds, and I will try to correct the autofocus. Here we go. 3 and 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. All right. Hopefully that works out better. Okay. We'll see. I think it finally found my face, because I think what it was trying to focus on my black shirt. That's the problem. And the thing is, like, manual focuses. I have kind of been converted from the manual focus days. Oops, it's still going. Well, we'll deal with it. I have been converted from manual. I don't, unless I'm rack focusing, and unless I have a need to actually pull focus and change the focus, I will actually shoot almost everything in autofocus, unless I have the ability, unless I have the creativity that requires focusing. I find that the autofocus on these Canon cameras that I own is just unquestionably better than a manual focus. And I've been taken to task on my old videos that your focus is off in the video. Well, yeah, when you're shooting yourself, I can't see myself, and I'm shooting 4K video or something, and I can't control the focus. It's like really, really hard to control focus. It goes back to the whole concept of like depth of field is a conceptual, subjective thing. Like, yeah, it looks like it's in focus when I'm looking at it on a screen that's like 15 feet away, and the picture is only half the screen, so it looks like it's in focus. But when you blow it up, you're like, oh, that's not in focus. So yeah. Let's see. How did I make the background in your studio? Like today we're in front of Hong Kong. It's actually 3 TV sets back there. It's 3 TVs that I found on, actually, I think I bought them from Walmart. I was trying to capitalize on a Black Friday deal, and it literally, they literally would not let you buy 3 of them. So I ended up having to get the next level up a little. Actually, 2 of them are the Black Friday deals, and one of them had to be a different screen because they ran out of the ones so they're not quite matching. And for the purposes of this, they can't. It's fine. You can't. But if you were to stand here and look at it, you'd be like, that middle screen's a little different color. Yeah, for this is okay, and it's still focus breathing. Jeez, come on. Well, it started doing this today. Well, it's a little different setup today. I don't know why. We'll figure it out. But one thing that's interesting. So today I am shooting. I think I am rolling at 24 frames a second, streaming at 30 frames a second. Put your brain around that. But one thing I discovered too, it is focus breathing like crazy. All right, one thing I discovered is that, well, I discovered. It's kind of common knowledge. These are 60 hertz displays, so I really need to, well, they're 59.94. I really need to shoot a shutter speed of 60 or use a scan line thing and get the frames, the screen, so they're not flickering on the back there. Which one's still flashing? The screen's flashing. It's still focus breathing. I unfortunately, if I change it, I'll be out of focus the entire show. So let's just leave it the way it is. All right. I'll try to focus on no, because I'm shooting. Charles Hoffman says focus on the on Nick Cage back there. The problem is he is about 3 feet behind me, so it will be literally. It will be out of focus. It'll put me out of focus. I'm recording this with my. I have a Canon C70 running here with the focal length reducer. So I've got a basically essentially f2.0. So it is. It's pretty shallow. Oh, it's tip. So one of the things I do use is I have a skeleton that I call my intern Vic. What's her name? Trixie. She sits in place, but the thing is I have to get her out. Her leg's broken too. Her leg fell off. I've been working her too hard. But Trixie, she sits in my reception office. Every time the UPS guy comes, it's like, how's my girlfriend? Trixie. She's been sitting there for a long time. But yeah, I do use that occasionally. But then again, it's one of those things where it's like you can get the focus. I'll be honest with you. Autofocus is so much better. It has gotten so much better. It's really amazing. I'm a true convert. Although obviously, if you're shooting a film and you want a rack focus, you don't want necessarily autofocus. Although you probably could just touch different parts of the screen. Sansi, the picture focus breathing is annoying. You're a professional. So what? If you don't like it, you can go fuck yourself. How's that? I'm turning to Salty John. Wave your right hand. No, see the focus is the autofocus is specifically right now on my face, and for some reason, or it's in this area right here. So so even if I put my hand back there, it won't necessarily focus. So it's going to follow me as I go back, but it won't. And it might also just be the camera needs to be rebooted. I don't know. Is it right in front of my face? Yeah. So like I said, the focus is, I think, right here is where the focus situation is. Yeah. I mean, it's okay. Like, let's face it. How many people are really watching this versus how many people are going to be listening to it live? So we'll figure it out. I mean, it hasn't been doing this before, so it's probably just because of the way the camera position and all that stuff. So I love how you guys are so quick to jump on me for the focusing issues. Like, okay, all right. It's like yeah, okay. Go ahead and jump on the focusing issue. Don't jump on the fact that I don't have anything to talk about, and I'm basically relying on you guys, your questions, to create content for the live stream. No, none of that. No, let's focus on the most trivial thing, which is focus breathing on the camera. So, well, that's the way it is. That's the way it is. And if I was in your situation, I'd probably be doing the same thing. Oh, your focus breathing is way off. It's like, okay, whatever. How's Joe doing? Daniel says he's doing great. He's he's working. He's trying to get away from his job that he has right now. But we kind of hang out. We've been doing some stuff. Oh. No, Charles says, I apologize if I think I'm jumping. That was totally not. No, other people were. Some other guy was. So he's not professional. You're not professional. It's like, I'm literally one. You're not paying me. there's a comeback to that. You're not being professional. You're not paying me. You're watching this for free. So, whatever. Pops Freshenmeyer says, how's the printing coming along? What models are you printing? So right now I'm working on a multi-day, I'm doing some tabletop stuff. So I wanted to start another YouTube channel. I'm going to call it Food Erotic, which is basically going to be a bunch of food porn, basically. I wanted to do like shots of food in a fun, sexy way that I think is kind of clever and funny, and maybe just as a creative outlet to take pictures of my lunch. But I wanted to build a tabletop a tabletop cyc. So I thought, looked online trying to figure out like, okay, what can I buy I wanted a cove that was a cyclorama, which is curved walls on both sides. I wanted to paint it infinite white, so it's like a white set, right? And I only want, so big. I looked online, and it was like $200, $300 for these cycs, and I thought, they're not really quite what I had in mind. They're only like one walled cyc, or they have some that are $300, but they're a couple walls, and then I don't know if I could customize it. I'm probably making the focus even worse right now by doing my hands all over the place. So I decided I could design this and print them myself. So that's what I'm working on. So, I mean, the cost is going to be, about 2 spools of filament. Maybe if we want 1.5 spools of filament, so it's about $30, plus the probably 50 hours of printing. So, and then I just make it out of wood and be done with it. And I can make it whatever size I want. So that's what I'm printing right now. And otherwise, I do a lot of art models. I do like this guy right here. I just like making models. I make little things. I'm working on Tinkerbell. Sexy Tinkerbell. I was always afraid that if I post this stuff, like people will yell at me for being sexist. It's like, it's a sexy Tinkerbell. I like sexy Tinkerbells. So anyhow, that's what I'm working on. I've done a couple practical things. That right now I'm working on that cyclorama, so it's practical. Watch the remastered Batman vs Superman, which is your preference for IMAX sequences on TV. Original 4:3 or crop 16:9. Is there a remaster? Did they remaster Batman vs Superman in 4:3? I'll be honest, I'm not a fan of the 4:3 on 16:9 screens. It's just, it feels small. Like I like watching old movies that are, IMAX is designed to be viewed on a 4-story screen. It's meant to feel big. So when you take a big image like that, that's really supposed to be like cover your field of view, and then you put it on a TV screen, which is 16:9, and then you make it smaller by making it a 4:3, it feels like you're just defeating the purpose of the whole point. IMAX. I mean, IMAX is meant to feel big, but everything feels small on a 16:9 screen. So that's what I'm thinking. Almost every question is an XY problem. AMA. What does this mean? That's not an XY question, but it is a question that does need to be addressed. I wish somebody would have talked about it, maybe in the earlier part of this video. Salty John coming back. How do they make stop motion blur in older movies? Undercranking. How do they make stop motion blur? There are a couple. They didn't for a long time. It wasn't until like the 80s. I believe Willow, or one of them, it may be one of the Star Wars, maybe the third Star Wars movie. Basically, what they did was they had, correct me if I'm wrong, Chad. You probably will. But basically, it was like an animatronic. They would program the animatronic to make them move each frame when they do it. So that's how they can get the stop motion, the blur. And it's called motion. Chat will answer that question. But it was very, very complicated to do. Who's my next co-host or guest? I kind of like doing these solo because it gives me a chance to just vent and rant forever. Sancy, are you dropping frame as it's noticeable? Not quite sure. Screen still flashing are you guys seeing screen flashing every few seconds? Because I'm not seeing that at all. Maybe your computer. I don't know. Let's see. Let me look over here on my live streaming preview here. And I don't think I'm seeing flashing. No, it sounds like your video card's fritzing out. But you should know. You should know you're a professional, right? That's the asshole I was talking about. He's the one that nothing gets my goat for some reason than people coming on complaining about technical stuff. There he is. So you're saying it's flashing, it's noticeable. So you're in the UK, 50 hertz mains, and PAL would be doing that. No, I don't think so. I think literally your computer is on the fritz. You should take it and throw it in the trash can and immediately set it on fire. I have no idea what you're talking about. I don't care. Yeah. So yeah, Salty John's back. And I better not indulge that so much because it's not good. And I don't think you guys want to see that. Yeah, Go Motion was a process. Charles Hoffman says Go Motion was a process that added blur to stop motion. Let's see. Yeah, syncing cameras and stepper motors back then, like shooting MG through a propeller. Oh, through a machine gun through a propeller. Yeah, yeah. Belb. It's hard to pronounce that. Not seeing flashing backwall TVs. What resolution are IMAX projecting these days? Digital production. 4K on a huge screen seems like it's not enough. Surprisingly, it is. I mean, IMAX. So there is math for this. You know, there is really math to determining how many pixels you can see. And basically, what you do is you take a black and white graphic, and you just decrease the size of the lines until basically from where you're sitting, it looks like a gray wall, even though it's black, white, alternating lines. And you find that 2K, if you're sitting, you know, about halfway up in the theater, 2K is really all you can resolve visually in a theater, in a movie theater. 2K is about the limit. Like, if you want to see 4K, you need to be sitting in the front half of the theater. Then you can see it. And I've actually did this. Back when 4K was first starting to be a thing, like, I went to this Canon demonstration at NAB. And I was like, why are all these people sitting in the back to see 4K? You should be sitting in the front, because I want to see all the detail that this thing can offer me. And I sat in the front row, and I did see all the detail, the 4K. And the first thing I discovered was, man, a lot of stuff is out of focus. Just like me today. Is the focus breathing still going? Yep, the focus breathing still doing it. Focus breathing still going. So a lot of stuff is out of focus. Realistically, resolution in a movie theater, even an IMAX resolution, you're looking at probably 3K. It's all you really need. The resolution is amazing. Yeah, and then Pops Freshenmeyer says, I get motion sick in front seats. I do too. Like, I remember the worst movie experience I've ever had, worst theater experience I've ever had, was I wanted to go see the Bourne movie, and we were late, and we couldn't get any seats because the theater was packed, and the only seats left were in the front corner of a Bourne movie, the Paul Greengrass shaky cam movie. Are you effing kidding me? That is horrible. Horrible experience. Horrible. Especially in the corner. Like, front movie in the front, that's different. But like in the corner, it's like, not only that, you're getting like perspective distortion. All right. Yes, I'm talking about front seaters, I guess. So we should never sit closer. Ideally, what you should do is actually sit in, this is told to me by the folks that worked in the studio, you need to sit in the back 2/3 in the middle. That is the ideal viewing situation, because that's where, when they master a film for final release, that's where the director and producer sits. So they master it for that seat. Up 2/3 in the middle. That's the ideal seat. So every time you go to the movie theater, now you know, always sit there. Arseny says, Cats is my best movie experience. I will not disagree. I had 5 margaritas going to that movie, and I actually enjoyed it. I was actually rewatching a movie. I need to do a video about this topic. The movie called Candy. I need to do a video review. I need to do a review of that film. Although it is a movie that defies review. Candy is like, Cats is a technological cluster kitty crap. There's a lot of bad things about Cats. Although I did enjoy the audacity of the film. Mostly that's really what I enjoyed, was the audacity. And I enjoyed the music because I liked the musical. But Candy is just sheer audacity. The audacity of that film. It will turn off a lot of people, I think, because it has a flavor of a porno. Although, frankly, in today's world, it'd hardly rise to a PG rating, because there's no real bad language in it. It's the only thing that's bad, I guess, is sexual situations. But even then, there's nothing graphic about it, and it's got major stars in it. It's got Marlon Brando. Marlon Brando thinks it's the worst movie he's ever been in. which you might be wrong about, but the audacity of that movie is just sheer delight. I need to do a review. I need to actually make more videos. That's part of the thing. Anyhow. Daniel says I should stream movies and offer commentary. Unfortunately, that's a copyright minefield. You're just asking for trouble. Any recommendations for a film student? I don't have a whole lot right now. So, right now, because of what's going on in the politics, which I won't talk much about, but watch Rashomon. Watch Rashomon. There's another example. Manny says There Will Be Blood is a masterpiece. There's another example. I think There Will Be Blood is a really, it is a master. There's no question about it. It is a masterpiece. But it's not one of my favorite movies, but it's like, I don't know. It's one of those movies where it's like you can just drop in at any point and just watch it and enjoy it, because it's a tour de force in acting. It just, everything about it is just, it's not what I call a story. It's just more of an experience. I don't know. I do love it. I've seen it, I think, twice, 2 or 3 times. Sarp says, this just popped in my feed, so let me ask you, if I Googled you now, what would I find? What are you known for? I'm mostly known for Filmmaker IQ. That's probably what you're going to find me. If you Google me, though, you will find that I am also the CEO of Hess Oil. Very good. So you'll also know me for that. That's probably I don't know, I'm probably more known for that than... my brother is also the director of Napoleon Dynamite. Just kidding. I'm not related to that guy. But yeah, you can Google me if you want. Google me all day and night. Mystery Science Theater 4000 Filmmaker IQ. In the not too distant future. Here's a winning formula. Cats on IMAX. You can really see the cat butthole there. There's a starfish staring at you. Never mind. Holy moly. P. Blood says, I'm not a fan of the shaky cam style or Tenet soft dialogue. I don't think Tenet was meant to do that. I mean, I think they're like, oh, let's do it because that's cool. But I don't think it's one of those, it's an artistic failure. Like, it was an artistic choice, but it was a failure kind of a thing. It's, I think we have to get away from this idea that filmmakers, even the best ones, are some sort of gods among men, or gods among men and women, if we're going to be politically correct. Because even Stanley Kubrick is a human being. Even Christopher Nolan is a human being. Paul Thomas Anderson is a human being. They're all, Quentin Tarantino, they're human beings. They make, we need to celebrate their imperfection as much as the strive for perfection, strive for creative control. Yes, but they are human beings, and that's what makes them great. Is that all these different flavors that they bring. And so something like Tenet, which has, I understand why he didn't want the audio necessarily, because yeah, that's not important. It doesn't important what they say. You just need to know that they're doing stuff. It's not really important. Yes, mister. I love my friend and I, Joe, always joke every time we talk. It's like we always do the Bane comedian videos. Yes, fiber is more important for your diet. Yes, Batman. So anyhow. Oh, by the way, if you haven't seen, I think it's on HBO Max now. It's the Harley Quinn animated series, the 2 seasons of that. Their take on Bane is so hilarious. I love that character. Anyhow. Do I have a favorite foreign film? I think I'm a big fan of Kurosawa, which I think I picked out Rashomon earlier as far as a great movie to watch, because there's a trial in that one, and there's ultimately different people, different perspectives on things and how things are going. But I haven't seen Seven Samurai over and over and over again. But I would definitely pick Kurosawa. You almost can't go wrong. So, Paul is such a great director. So many different genres. Do you have any tips on how to come up with stories? I feel like stories. I go back to the old adage. There's a book. One of the books I read when I first started out was I think it was How to Tell Stories Visually. I'm not sure which book it was. It's a very common book. Everyone had it. But the one line that stuck with me that never, ever, ever got away from me was this: that the hand guides the craft. The hand how did I word it? The hand guides the creation. So that when you go down to create something, the act of creating is its own imagination, is its own creation. So it's almost impossible to come up with a story that's really good in your head, and then in your head, and then just spit it out, and all of a sudden it's just perfect. That's, first of all, that's impossible. That doesn't happen. I mean, you might hear a story like this writer, all he does is dictate his stories and they write them down and they become bestseller books. Maybe not. I don't know, questionable. So I don't think that's how writers really work. So the act of putting something down creates its own imagination, its own creativity, and it inspires other creativity. So if you want to write a story, take a little nibbit of something. Like I have an idea for a short that I might just shoot real quick by myself. And I need to write it down. And then as I write it down, I'll oh, well, it'd be funny if I said this. And then I write it down, I see it, it's not so funny, so I'll change it. But if it could be funny if I said this. So the act of manipulating it adds to the creativity. So Sarp says, "Hey, I'm back. I couldn't find your name on Google. It's not on the about page on YouTube." Yes, it is. You can find all about me. I am the CEO of Hess Oil. That's how you'll know. Watch Mojo or What Culture? I don't think I don't have much of What Culture. I watch more Watch Mojo more. But why not both? As that kid from the old taco commercials used to say, "No que los dos." There's no reason for X or Y. It's X and Y. Okay, John, I agree with you entirely about 24 hours being here to stay, partly because it's how we think films should look. Do you have any similar thoughts about wide gamut displays? Not really. No, not really. Because wide gamut, I think, is the only thing that is the future of cinema. Like if you're looking for something that feels better, it's going to be wide. It's going to be the wide. It's going to be higher dynamic range, because you can actually see it. Like unlike if you were to go in a movie theater and say, okay, I'm going to show you a 4K image, and I'm going to show you an 8K image, you're going to I see no difference. If you're being honest, obviously it could be placebo to thinking I could show you there could be both 2K images for all you know. But 8K, 4K, no, there's no difference. I will stand on the ground. There is no visual difference for the end user. There might be some advantages for shooting 8K in the production aspect to preserve detail and all that. Although Steve Yedlin might kind of disagree with that point too. So there is a discussion on that to be had. However, resolution, we're at the end of the road. It's done. Dynamic range, however, there is a difference. It does look more vibrant and brighter. Now the question too also is, will that interfere with 24 frames a second? Like this morning I was thinking about doing I like this. If just a quick comment, oops. If you are the CEO of Hess Oil, where are all the trucks? They're behind. They're back there, man, hiding. So yeah, going back to the wide gamut question. So if the screens are going to get brighter, then the question is, will there be a flicker issue? Because I've discovered this morning, I was thinking about approaching that the 24 frames a second and OLED screens, and what the problem is. And this is a sample and hold issue, because basically each frame butts up against another frame. It's the same reason why gamers will complain about screen-induced motion blur. So when your eye is tracking something and you have these frames butting up against each other, then you see all the little butts, you see all the little edges, and it's called stuttering. And or in the case of a high frame rate like a game, all those little butts up look like motion blur. It's screen-induced motion blur. And the way to get rid of that is through what's called black frame insertion. Sometimes it's called dark frame insertion. I wonder if that's politically correct to say dark frame insertion rather than black frame insertion. Anyhow, so the problem is, by doing that, you introduce flickering, And the how you counter flickering is to decrease the brightness of the monitor, decrease the brightness of the screen. That's why when you go to the movie theater, it's dark. It's not you don't want the screen to be super bright, otherwise you start seeing the flicker. So it's really dark, you don't notice flicker as well. So anyhow, that is why. That's a question about why dynamic range. But yeah, I think new stuff. I think dynamic range won't be an issue really for new technologies. 4K is a bit overrated as well. HD can't be discerned under normal viewing conditions. My experience with that is that I shoot now exclusively 4K. Everything I shoot is 4K. I deliver everything 1080, but I kind of like the advantages of 4K. It offers me an extra sharpness that I don't feel like I get out of 1080. I mean, maybe the 1080 image is as sharp, but it just feels the 4K feels a little bit sharper. And obviously I can do reframing, which is surprisingly useful, especially in some of the smaller, like I shot a retirement party the other day, and so I put my C70 in front of the stage, and that way I could literally get a close-up of the podium, a close-up of the retiree on the couch sitting there listening to all the jokes being told about him out of the same shot. And I had another camera that I did a profile shot with. So it gave me like three or four angles just out of one shot, and it was really, really useful. And I agree, yeah, anything you see on broadcast is mostly 720. No, it's half and half, 720 and 1080. Like all ABC networks are 720, but like NBC is 1080, and I'm pretty sure Fox is 10. No, Fox I think is 720. I think all the sports stuff went to 720, but I think like CBS is 1080. So there's a lot of 1080. Still a lot of 1080 sources. But I think 1080 has sort of become the de facto online thing, because I think. Or de facto resolution 1080, and 720 is only used if you're trying to preserve bandwidth and maybe go for higher frame rate kind of thing. There you go. Plaster Parrot says, question is more like, when we can represent more than the CIE color space on the actual screen, how long before Hollywood colors end up rating for a bigger gamut outside of Rec 709? Well, they're already kind of doing that, because I believe Rec 2020 is the new standard. Again, this is kind of territory that I am not quite familiar with. So, oh, hi Burke, coming on in, friend of Sarp. I don't know how your friends find you on. I don't have any friends I hang out on YouTube. Like, oh, you're watching this video, I'm gonna pop over and watch this video. Oh, Kerbin says, copyright law is pretty complex. It's also very stupid. Where I'm from, works are automatically copyrighted, but you can often give that up. Right. So I disagree vehemently with that. I think copyright law is actually not very stupid. I think it's actually it's relatively simple. It really is. The problem is the philosophy. And I think works being automatically copyrighted are actually inherently important in the system. Philosophically, like key to the system, because if they aren't automatically copyrighted, then you as a human being don't have human rights. So the idea that if you make something, you own it, that's an automatic copyright. That should, if you were to build a chair out of wood, do you own that chair after you built it? Of course you do. What's the difference between that and a book, and the copyright on a book, on a document or something like that? So yeah, the problem with copyright, however, is people don't understand the fringe or the limitations of where copyright ends. Like saying, I want to copyright the term flabbergast. I just came up with that word, flabberlabba. I'm going to copyright flabberlabba. I can't copyright that. You can't copyright a word. You can't copy. There's something called the threshold of originality. So there's levels of copyright that are required. And the other thing I would argue too is there's limitation. Copyright really refers to a copy of that particular thing. If say your kid is a kindergartner, goes to school, takes some crayons and scribbles it on the crayons, and you're like, that's copyright protected. It is. A copy of that exact scribble is copyright. So I could not take that copy. I could not take that scribble and go out and mass market it. Like Disney could not say, hey, kid, thanks for taking this doodle. We're going to go sell it as a part of our squiggly line and make millions of dollars and not pay you a dime. That That's obviously a violation of copyright. However, if Disney were to say, oh, I like that squiggle. Hey, let's get one of our artists to squiggle on his own paper. And it's obviously different squiggles because it's different. That's not a copyright violation. So anyhow, I can talk endlessly about copyright because I'm fascinated with the topic. And I think the funny thing about copyright too is all the issues are all the cases you read are very fine lines on the very edge. It's like you can almost you have to understand, if you understand the general gist of copyright, that'll get you so far. But every case at least every case that's newsworthy is always that fine line. You're like, I can understand where that's coming from. I can understand where that's coming from. Although there wasn't one news article that I thought was just laughable. I guess in the EU there was a case where someone was arguing that they were trying to copyright the taste of a product, and that just got canned. That got tossed. Like, no, under EU law you cannot copyright the taste of a product. Yeah. Joe Key says, nice focus hunting. Yep, that's true. All right. Have I read a story by Sid Field's screenplay? I think I've read that one. I've read Save the Cat. So the thing, I'll watch Save the Cat or read Save the Cat, but realize that this is a type of formula he presents. Don't ever take anything as entirely gospel. You know, like, even though Save the Cat gives you a beat sheet to follow, you don't have to follow it precisely. It's not a magic key that you insert and you turn and then boom, $1 billion. You know, it doesn't work that way. So, yeah, I would check it, read it out. I think there's valuable stuff in Save the Cat, but don't go overboard with it. And it goes with everything in life. Don't follow anybody, myself excluded. Follow me religiously. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, donate to Patreon. Why not? And just, follow me religiously. Shave your head, go to the airport, and shout Harry Carey. No, don't do that. I'm told not to do that. But don't follow anything religiously and be like, this is the only way it is, and everyone else that thinks anything else is wrong and they have no other points. No, just learn from what you can and then do what you want. Speaking of copyright, what's my view on NFT? I don't know much about NFT enough, but it just seems I don't think there's anything incongruent with copyright and NFT. TSG says, I think copyright is important for the artist. How it's implemented can be suspect. If you ask permission, you may be granted permission with proper attribution. How it's implemented, yeah, that's true. And then how people how it's abused too. Like right now, so I'm thinking about doing some 3D printing for sale, to sell some products. So I have to be very mindful of what products I can print and sell commercially. So obviously I ask permission. The question I also wonder too is, like, if I go to like a CG trader and I find that somebody is selling a model, and I ask them, hey, do I have permission to print this? Does the person selling the model have permission to give me the permission, or did they steal it and put it on the site to try to sell it? So it's a minefield. It really is. Now, so my approach to copyright really is, stuff's going to happen. Copyright is not perfect. It never, and it's not ever intended to be. The law cannot be perfect because the law cannot foresee the future. The law cannot foresee every possible. This is what was taught to me when I was in business school. I took one class called business law by this professor, and he was so good at explaining law that you're like, wow, I totally get it. So he was explaining, how law is basically Congress writes a law, and then everybody has to figure out, how do I interpret this law? And so then there's always going to be ways of interpreting that you never ever figured it out. It never ever, occurred to you. And the question is going to be, is this the right interpretation of the law? And copyright is no different. In fact, the whole point of copyright, though, is it can't be forward thinking. So it'd be fortune telling. It has to always be behind the times. It just always is. So we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. Who's an actor, dead or alive, that you would like to work with? That's a great question. I'm trying to. There are a couple. I mean, a couple ones that would jump to my mind really quickly would be like Don Rickles. I think was supposed to be a really funny guy, a really cool focus guy. Joe Key says, "Why not use manual focus? Because there's no one to actually manually focus." Charles Hoffman says, "We're followers of Hess. Does that make us Hessians?" Yes, it does. So I want you all to go to New Jersey and build a camp, and hopefully no one will cross the river at Christmas and kill you guys at night. So someone's shooting on a shoestring budget. Does it make sense to invest in a DSLR? In your opinion, do you think the budget phone is capable? Okay, yeah. Now we're getting into... I am not against DSLR filmmakers. I use a DSLR. I kind of like the form factor, but they are not the end-all be-all of video. Now, if you're on a shoestring budget, shoestring budget, if you really can't afford a DSLR and all you can afford is the phone, then you shoot with your phone and you just make something cool. Can you produce high-quality, professional-looking films? No. You don't have a budget. That's the next white question. You don't even have a budget. How can you produce professional-looking films if you don't have a budget? So you're never going to compete. You're never going to compete with a professional, high-quality looking film. Never going to happen. So what do? You put your money in what matters, which is story, which is acting, which is telling a really good story, telling a really good everything, really good, and you don't worry about what it looks like necessarily. I mean, you try to make it look as nice as possible. You do what you can. But you're never going to compete. Your phone is never going to compete with a Red camera, with a Arri Alexa. It's never. And you're fooling yourself if you think it will. And these ads at Apple say, well, this was shot on the phone. Yeah, I can tell. It looks like it was shot on the phone. Because the sharpness is too much. The depth of field is wrong. It's just, a professional eye can tell it was shot on the phone. Doesn't mean you can't shoot good stuff. It just means you don't fool yourself. Put the money in what matters. Story, locations, most importantly, story, acting, feed your crew. Put the money where it matters. So anyhow. Let's see. I heard 20 seconds. Okay. Rick Ray says, I heard 20 seconds of music can be used without paying for it. Is that true? No. No, it's what you can get away with, not necessarily what is legal. And also, what can be construed as fair use and what isn't. If you're talking about, I like this song, and this is the particular hook. I like with the C major to B minor chord progression here. Take a listen to that. You hear that? That's fair use. But Rat says, Against Intellectual Property by Stephen Kinsella is a really nice short book about this. It's probably wrong. I'm going to say that. I'm not going to bother reading that book. Because I think most of the people that argue against intellectual property are just wrong. They don't understand intellectual property, and it's really like the evidence of intellectual property is all around you. It's kind of like the argument against 24 frames a second. Well, we shouldn't have 24 frames a second. Well, that's literally how cinema is built. That's how our information society is built around the whole concept of intellectual property. So say, well, it's not a good idea. Well, you're an idiot. You might be smart, but you're an idiot. If traveling is possible again, where would you like to go? Oh, well, I've got a trip for my birthday planned for Vegas. I'm making a return to Vegas here in July. So that's my goal. And again, like I said, we're starting to open up. So yes, right now, my California, we've opened up vaccines to everybody over 16. So anybody can get a vaccine if they want one. I already have mine. I have been vaccinated. My second day of vaccine, the second dose was the bad one. So that one made me feel like just icky for a day. I just felt like achy, really achy. So I'm I've got my vaccine so I won't die. Not that I was going to, although I am a little bit on the fat side. So, okay, suggestions for making some money as a beginning photographer, cinematographer. What you can do is latch on to another photographer, cinematographer. Latch on to another production company. Like find a production company and say, hey, I want to help you guys work. Now, your level of experience will determine how much you get paid. If you have no experience, just go to them and say, hey, I want to just offer a free hand. If you have a project and you need an extra hand, I will intern or help you guys out. And if you want to, or if you want to pay me like for a PA, I will gladly do whatever you want. I will be your gopher. I will do anything. Not anything, obviously. They're not going to Me Too ourselves, right? So I will do, I'll do any job. So that's a way to start if you're beginning, and then that's how you would. That's how you would. You would basically, you're going back to the old apprentice idea. It depends on. So what's amazing? What you can get sued for? Last thing you want to get sued. Well, you're going to remember anybody can sue for anything, even if it's not a case. Being sued is not really. It's par for the course. Sometimes and then I personally believe that you need to stand up for your First Amendment rights. If you are saying something, and it feels like it's fair use, and it really does look like it's fair use, then you need to stand up for it against people that are trying to come after you for saying, "You're using my copyright stuff." I will get vicious about this. So, because if it's fair use, it's fair. It really is fair. Copyright abuse is worse than anything. Is the worst thing in copyright is copyright abuse. Is abusing the purpose of copyright. So anyhow, the other angle of it is that's what the errors and omissions, E&O insurance is for. It literally, when you make a movie and you distribute a movie, you literally have to buy insurance to say, hey, we tried to make sure that everything is free and clear as far as intellectual property goes. And the E&O insurance will look at your film and say, well, it looks like you're good and clear, but there's insurance because somebody somewhere can be upset and want to sue, and that's just the way it is. Hey John, where's an X and Y? Here's an X and Y. Canon C300 or Red Scarlet W? Apparently I'm meeting them Friday. I would go with the Canon C300 just because that to me is a more all-in-one camera, whereas the Scarlet is you have to piece a lot of stuff together. And I feel like with the Canon C300, it's literally you put an SD card in or an SCF card in and you record and you're done. Whereas Red, I think you have to compile all the pieces together, attach all this stuff, and build it all out, and kit it all out, and all that stuff. Pops Fresh-Meyer says, I once seen a short film, which is just a guy putting stock photos on a table, and then tell a story over it. That was pretty cool. Why not? Yeah. Like, I don't know. Like today on YouTube, people will just do long essays over people playing CSGO footage that has nothing to do with what they're talking about. I don't know. Stuff like that. It's like, here's just some images for you to look at while I talk, which is basically what this live show is. This is not, who wants to see this? You just want to hear me talk about it. You don't want to answer your questions. That's all you really want. Boa says, what do you think about tools like Unreal Engine and filmmaking, not just stuff like Mandalorian's Richard said for using it for storyboard? I don't think Unreal Engine is good for storyboarding. I don't think, obviously there's something called Previs, which is really useful for VFX shots because you're basically building out the set and the camera angles. You can just transfer that to the VFX department and they can just kind of handle it. But storyboarding is so overrated, especially with indie filmmakers. I get it. As a teaching aid, it's awesome that you should all young filmmakers should storyboard their stuff just to get a sense of what they think they want to shoot. But storyboarding to me is seriously overrated. Like especially for if you don't have any control of your set, if you can't build your set, then why are you storyboarding it? You can't, you're basically creating something that's not real, that's not indicative of what your final product is. Now, I get it. Look, I get it. This will be taken out of context because people are like, well, John says storyboarding is overrated. He's overrated. Yeah, I get it. I am. but what's the point of storyboarding if I'm in a room, if I'm in a bedroom that I rented or it's my own bedroom and I'm shooting a two-shot, like people talking on the phone or people talking to each other on the bed, why do I need to storyboard it? I just have the shot. I know shot of the bed, shot of the two people back and forth, cutting back and forth. I don't need to storyboard this thing. So anyhow, that's my take on storyboarding. Where did that comment go? I wanted to see that one. There it is. I want to see old characters. Okay. I want to see old characters like Marvel and DC go in the public domain. So here's my take on that. No, you don't. So all the Star Wars fans got so pissed off that Rian Johnson did the thing to Luke Skywalker. Oh, he made him a bad character. They ever got pissed off. Oh, I can't believe you ruined my childhood by doing that. Well, that's what happens when somebody has control over something, steers it in a certain way. So when you release a character like, a popular character, let's say Batman, to the public domain, then basically everybody can make a Batman movie, and then everybody can make a take on Batman, and it kind of destroys the canon of it. There is no canon of it. What's canon? You got we got Quentin Tarantino's Batman. And then you have Christopher Nolan's Batman, obviously. Then you have Paul Thomas Anderson's Batman, or you have, Werner Herzog's Batman. They all it just kind of dilutes the legend. And then you could have the white supremacist Batman, and he's really pop. It totally ruins it. So public domain is actually not. I think public domain is where, I hate to say this, public domain is where stories go to die, and unfortunately, that's kind of the way it is. It should be, because Sherlock Holmes. Anybody can make a Sherlock Holmes movie, obviously, because the character is public domain now. But does anyone get excited about Sherlock Holmes? It's like, oh, I got to see this Sherlock Holmes movie, or they get excited about a particular Sherlock Holmes. Anyhow, it's a long topic. I don't think public domain is as valuable. I mean, it is. Don't get me wrong. Public domain is super valuable, that's where we gather all of our cultural ideas, as the public domain. Copyright is taking things from the public domain and rearranging them and then producing something. That is how copyright actually works. But you don't necessarily want to put things back in the public domain until they've kind of lost their usefulness, or at least they lost their popularity. Then when things become so old, they're taken for granted, then it's public domain. I'll go for that. So that's my long rant on that. I know people are going to get really upset with that, because I think this is going to be harsh. A lot of you guys have been propagandized into thinking the public domain is this greatest thing in the world, when really, do you guys really read? Is there anything preventing you from reading any book or any movie? Is there anything that's keeping you from doing that? So, don't talk to me about Flick. I just throw my iMacBook out the window as advised. Good for you. Follow my over. All right, bend over. What's a good way to develop new intellectual property graphic novels? That's actually an idea. That's an idea that I was trying to do myself, was actually develop a graphic novel, because I was looking at my story and it's just way too expensive to produce in a visual medium or in a movie. I needed my comic book, which I haven't worked on in a while because I got too much into 3D printing for a little bit, has 11 or 10 to 11 main characters, and to cast that many people, to shoot with all the locations I want, to do the sets I want, would have been prohibitively expensive. I figured if I make a graphic novel, I can show what I want to show, and I can get across this idea that I want to get across in a way that I can kind of at least monetize, or at least show to maybe big money, and maybe even make movie down the road. So that's I think graphic novels might be a good way to do it. I mean, that's how it worked for Mad Max. Why not? Oh, you're talking to my heart, Keb, man. The PD-150 and 170 is so sensitive. I use them to film Andromeda Galaxy from a city. Wow. PD-150, I still have that somewhere. My PD-150. It is an old workhorse of a camera. I love it. If you watch the original Jackass movie from 1999 or 2000, you see the Jackass crew is driving around in a golf cart, and they try to launch off of a sand bunker, and as they launch off, the golf cart flips around like crazy. And you see the PD-150 go flying out of the guy's hammer and starts just rolling down the thing. Of course, I think the PD-150 was fine because it's a freaking tank of a camera. So, Supup says, I love to hear more folks talk about their praise. Mike Crumlum is a gem in the channel, long-time user, DVX user. Funny thing about DVX user, I always thought it was just for the Panasonic camera, but it became so popular, it was like every kind of camera was there. Tips on how to adapt comic books, and graphic novels. The tip is to make it work for your medium. That's an XY question, I think. That is an XY question. You don't really know. Yeah. Hand of Fear. Well, hey, good to see you. Yeah, I'm a 3D printing addict. Just hook the filament directly to my veins. I got PLA running through my veins, and hopefully I will try to keep that resin away from my veins, because I heard that's pretty toxic. I mean, I'm a little lax when it comes to like PPE when working on stuff, but I need to make sure I don't inhale that stuff. Yeah, that's wild. Gotta love the physics of a different. Yeah, don't oversell the PD-150. I mean, it was really good in low light. It's not as good as the Sony, the modern Sony cameras. Nate Dollar says, in public domain help artists in the culture. Public domain is preserved in the past. Public domain makes education cheap. I agree with that. I mean, yes. I don't know. Does it make cheap? Yeah, look, the public domain is absolutely a necessity. Like we cannot have culture without public domain. There is a public domain. You know, the public domain of ideas. Ideas are public domain. Anybody can have an idea. Words are public domain. Concepts are public domain. Like all this stuff is public domain, right? But do we get anything really from letting something lapse out of public domain? So a good example of this is that movie that I talked about, Wonderful Life. So Wonderful Life fell into public domain and it got used by every single TV station. But what happened to it? It got cut up like it got put on the street like a cheap whore, basically, because that's what it was. It was a free movie starring Jimmy Stewart and Frank Capra directed that you could use for free. Oh, put it on TV for 20 times a day during Christmas time. Just run it all the time. And then, oh yeah, because it's public domain, let's just chop it up. Let's just insert commercials every 5 minutes. Make it, just unwatchable with all these commercials. But Jay, you have it on in the background because it's a Wonderful Life. So when something's public domain, it can be treated like shit, basically. And what happens when it fell out of public domain? Guess what happens? It got a film restoration because now there's money to actually be made by preserving this thing. There's they actually get a decent cut. You get rid of these horrible commercial breaks. There's actually money involved with it, and that's where public domain has preserved the film. I mean, but the other side, It's a Wonderful Life might have been forgotten because nobody cared about the movie. It was only people cared about it because they watched it 100 times during Christmas time. So, yeah. Plaster Parrot said PD-150 is a CCD system running at well over 7-volt image, clock phases, massive FWC, and even those days interlaced CCD and low read noise and pretty modern back then CMOS. I don't know what the 7-volt stuff, but it is definitely a CCD image. Yeah, and it was great. It was a great low light camera. It was a solid low light camera, workhorse of a camera. And I think it was fantastic. Nate Dollar asked, "Can gene sequencing, should that be copyrighted?" That's a question that's worth exploring. I don't think copyright should be. First of all, gene splicing, I guess you can make an argument that the gene splicing is a creativity involved with it, but I don't think that falls in line of or gene sequencing. I don't think that falls in line in the purview of copyright, because copyright, to me at least, is a domain of creative artistic expression, to the encouragement of creative artistic expression. It would fall more in line to patents, I think, like patenting. So maybe you can, if you're doing like a gene sequence, and again, it depends on exactly what it is how you're describing it too. So I think that's going to be more of a patent thing, which would then, of course, the protections will be lasting only 12 years. And I think, and the argument might be too that the worth value of a gene sequence to society would be far greater than it is to keep it for copyright. So the other thing I get with copyright too is like how valuable is a society to strip, like, say, Harry Potter's copyright, or pick another one, Dr. Seuss. To strip the copyright, what are we gaining by stripping the copyright from Dr. Seuss's heirs? Well, nothing really, because we're not the books themselves are available. They're in the market. They're in the wild. Anybody that wants to read a Dr. Seuss book can find one. I know the controversy is that they've tried to pull some of the older books that had the racial stuff in it. But the thing is, they're online, they're available. Maybe some marketplaces are curtailing the sale, but it's available. It's not. There's no benefit to society by reducing that copyright or by stripping that at copyright of the particular book. Gene sequencing, maybe a different story. And there might be a really important. It's kind of the same thing with drugs too, like heroin. No, drugs like some miracle cancer cure. The patents are only so long, because after that point, the usefulness of society outweighs the benefit. Hannah Fear says copyright isn't just creative. Legal paperwork is regularly copyright. Copyright lawyers can become incredibly rich by copyrighting specific use of. Maybe, yeah. But I would argue too that legal paperwork is creative. It's a form of creative expression. I mean, it is a creative process. Honestly, narrow usually looks better, at least for portraits, unless you know what you're doing. Just keep your I'm not sure what that responds to, but I'll let you guys talk amongst yourselves. What format for a script is a music video? Standard screenplay format or AV format script? AV format. And usually a script for a music video, I mean, like, is there a script for music? I mean, unless you have, some music videos have like a long intro where it's just like a short film. And you can do, you can obviously do whatever you want to do with that. You can make it you can use a regular standard screenplay format or AV format, doesn't matter. But music videos generally don't. I don't think they have scripts necessarily. I mean, they might have like an idea board, and they might have like a list of shots and list of styles, and they shoot a bunch of stuff, and the editor kind of goes and puts it together, kind of thing. So there you go. Nassim says, "I want to." Oh, you're talking about restaurants. Yeah, I'm doing a lot more. I'm gonna do some of that food stuff. Okay, TSG says public domain can cheapen the product no matter what it is. That's true. It does cheapen it. Also, it leads to abuse. Like, the one thing I always remind people with public domain, remember this. With copyright, always remember this. Everything that you think Disney is, every abuse that you think Disney is doing with copyright, remember that, how do I word this? Always throw the other shoe on the other foot, right? Like, so, well, I don't want to get too much into this, but like the idea of a major popular character like Harry Potter, or okay, Harry Potter, why not? So if we take Harry Potter and let's say Disney makes their Harry Potter and it's G-rated, and then let's say Vivid Entertainment makes their Harry Potter, and it's not a parody, it's just a porno, and it's just that's a terrible example. That's why I probably shouldn't be talking to my feet. if there's no control over the product, Vivid Entertainment can make a Harry Potter that's legitimately a Harry Potter movie, but it is a porno, and they can market that as a legitimate Harry Potter movie. Then we have a real problem in our society because, which one? Grandma goes to the store. I saw this Vivid Entertainment or this Disney. Well, Vivid's a lot cheaper, and my eyes aren't so good, so I want the Vivid version of Harry Potter for my grandson. I want to buy that. And so he buys the Vivid from Walmart. Well, Walmart wouldn't sell it, but you get the point. So, yeah, Harry Potter could be used for tobacco commercials. That's a great point, too. Harry Potter could be used for tobacco commercials because he's public domain. You can use a public domain character for tobacco. You want to sell anything, anything you disagree with. Just a company you disagree with. Monsanto, presented by Harry Potter. So that's the problem with I always, everything that you complain about copyright, everything that Disney's doing, just keep in mind that you can do it back to Disney. And if we don't have that, then we have an issue. Anyhow. May I ask how you use manual focus in the video properly? I don't understand if I should use hyperfocal distance or put the aperture at 8 or more. That's a really hard question for me to this is an XY question. Because I don't think you know what you're asking. I can't really explain that to you. Manual focus is, the way you do manual focus, let's put it this way. Hyperfocal distance is when you want to do a landscape shot. And it's when you want when you want to take a landscape shot and you want the maximum focus and you're not worried about zooming in. Hyperfocal distance is really useful for getting really deep at the field from far away objects that are beyond the hyperfocal distance, right? If you're just doing something close up, you want to use autofocus, manual focus, or whatever. You're going to use something that's not hyperfocal distance. And the easiest way is to use the punch in button on your camera and punch in and then get real close and then find the focus, then punch out. That's basically it. So anyhow. Oh my God. My Grammy rented out Bad Santa. We all enjoyed that till the scene at the fence. Which scene was it at the fence? I mean, Bad Santa is one of my all-time favorite movies. It is probably the movie I didn't watch it last Christmas because last Christmas was terrible because we were all coveting ourselves. But I like to watch Bad Santa every year because it is of my heart. The movie is such a great movie. I love that movie so much. And I think if I had a grandma, I would watch Bad Santa. Fuck me, Santa. Grandma obviously had sex. She had you. She's not that prudish. Yeah, Curb K-Man says, you need to learn what the tools your camera does. This is what I mean by XY questions. Yeah, it's an XY question. But hyperfocal can be an f1.4, just the focus plane to from infinity. Yep. Yes, it is, absolutely. Yeah, I love the Bad Santa. I don't know if you guys ever do this. Like, if you ever watch a movie and you think about, once you get really familiar with a movie, like you watch it twice or three times and you start kind of seeing the structure of the movie and you think about it, you're like, this is not that complicated. Like the Bad Santa movie, when you watch it, it's like one scene after the other and it's like gets you going. It's really funny. It's got a lot of moving parts. But if you actually take it apart and you look at it structurally, like this is a pretty basic structure of a movie. The plot's pretty, constructed in a certain way, and then you have certain scenes that you need to have in order to move that plot forward. And I don't know, maybe because I just haven't made a feature-length film, and I want to. I haven't made a short film in years because it's, I've been doing this and I've been doing my own business. I kind of miss that whole working with a plot structure, working with a story structure, knowing I need to have this scene because this scene sets up this scene. I miss that. I need to do more of that stuff. Damn it! Oh, thanks for making me make Salty John go away because I have enough I have enough salty John in me that I just, I want to just, I don't need that in my life all the time. Just let's celebrate some good stuff about things. Anyhow. Oh, Rigel says, I got up and I got up in plebs now. Thanks for putting it back on my radar. Water boy. It's Waterman. It's Waterman. I love that show. I want to do a video on that. I want to do that video on that. If you watch those scenes that take place between Marcus and Stylax and Aurelius, notice how they break the 180-degree rule. I'm pretty sure there was a discussion. There had to be a discussion about it because it's so deliberate how they break it. I mean, there is a purpose to how they break it, but it's so hidden in the way it's cut. Like I didn't notice it until I went back and I was thinking about, I'd do a video about, plebs because I like the show, but the framing of comedy is so boring. There's nothing interesting about comedy framing. It's just shot, reverse shot, reverse shot, shot, reverse shot. There's no clever, but then I thought, wait a second. They break the 180-degree rule in that show. So, Kev, man, you're not spamming? All right, take care, man. Good to see you from Norway. What's my favorite Blu-ray boutique company? Is there any other? Isn't there only one? Isn't that Criterion Collection? Is that the only one? Do I have any plans to make a movie right now? I mean, yeah, I'd love to. I think I do have plans, but life, God laughs at your plans. But counterintuitive, but simple, good, be good. Simple movies are more work to write. Pascal said something like brevity takes time. Yep. The Hand of Fate, the Hand of Fear. The other line that is I think it's Mark Twain. It's been attributed, but it might be a false. If I had more time, I would have made it shorter. Yeah, I don't know. I like the idea. I feel like in my life I've gotten to the point where things have become sort of big open plains. I can go any direction I want. So it is. I'm probably am I making the focus again going crazy? No, I think the focus is kind of settled. I think the camera's kind of like, oh, I'm not going to try to focus breathe. No, I'm still doing it. Anyhow, it feels like I can go anywhere I want and the world's my oyster. But then you're stuck with that paralysis of having too many options. So you're like, okay, well, if the world's my oyster, then what do I do? So I like the idea of a story that's like, oh, here's my confines of my story. Okay, now I can work with something. I can mold this. And it feels like, to me, a lot of the ways, my favorite parts of filmmaking are the beginning where, yes, the world is your oyster. So whatever you want to come up with, you can come up with. So I love that freedom. And I love the ending, which is the massaging. It's like, now we have the clay in its rough form. Now we can go and do the detail work. I love that part. So those are my two favorite parts of filmmaking or any kind of craft work, is the beginning and the end. The two best parts to me. We're going back to Nate Dollars asks, what's the difference between patent and copyright? Patent is for mechanical industrial processes, and the terms on the patents are much shorter. So they're like 12 years for the patent. Again, the purpose of a patent is to encourage creativity, industrial arts, industrial functional things. But then again, functional things to society, there's a much greater value for those functional. If you invent a better mousetrap, and it's really great mousetrap, and it does a great job in it, it's the value of society. Other people should be able to copy that creation eventually. You give it a little time to make money on it. Eventually, it should go. Copyright is really more about your personality, is your personal likeness. If you sat down and write an essay out by yourself, that essay is representing of you as a person. That is your thoughts, your opinions, your being is in that essay. There's really no value for another person in the society to just copy your essay, because that's you they're copying. So there's a philosophical difference there. I know I'm probably not quite explaining it right, but that's like the major difference. One of the major differences. And then we want to talk about trademark. That's another thing. Those are the three pillars of intellectual property. I like the structure of Kubrick movies because you can start watching them from the middle of the film and it still works. Yeah, yeah. Especially, I feel like with something like Full Metal Jacket, you can actually just watch the first half and just stop it. Yeah, clever comedy framing. Edgar Wright. Yep, Edgar Wright, and I'm a really fan of Taika Waititi now. He's a really good comedic visual storyteller. Maybe not so much visual, but he's a clever cat. But then like a lot of like Judd Apatow style films, there's nothing there. It's just reverse shot. He does a lot of improv, which limits how much you can frame. I think obviously there's a video essay by Every Frame Painting that goes into a lot of this. Did I study cinema? I took one class of cinema in my college, which is called screenwriting. That's it. And then I studied cinema by basically watching a lot of cinema and by working in video production. And I've been doing that for 15 years, something like that. 17 years? I don't know. It adds up. Oh shit, 18 years. I've been doing video for 18 years professionally, so that adds up. And then I just basically try to make my own films. And I try to give you some insights into all that stuff. There are a handful of Blu-ray boutique companies: Arrow, Zavi, Blue Underground, Kino, Lorber, Stout Factory. Good to know. I don't know any of them. I don't have a Blu-ray collection. I just stream really a lot more. Oh, Rigel, Cynthia or Matella? I'll be honest, kind of attracted to Matella. Something about Matella. I don't know. I'm not against, the big girls. They need them loving. They're just, she's something about her. Although Cynthia, the more I look at Cynthia, the more I think she was kind of modeled after, like, basically Helen of Troy, like the classical depiction of Helen of Troy. That's how they. For those of you who have no idea what we're talking about the show called Plebs, which I have been obsessed with because I feel like that's the most, to me, that reflects most my personality and my sense of humor is that show. And if you haven't seen it, it's on Amazon Prime. It's available for free on Amazon Prime. Check it out. Shoot 4x5 or better yet, shoot 8x10. I don't have an 8x10 camera. I probably don't have the money for 8x10. 4x5 is already pushing my limit as far as how much I'm willing to spend on it. Now, if it's a 3D printer, never mind. How did I get into video production is basically I started making videos as a kid and I fell in love with it. I have a similar story to the way Spielberg got into filmmaking. The Spielberg story is that he had these model trains and he kept crashing them because he liked to see the trains crashing. Like, oh, that's so cool. They would just... Problem is he would destroy his trains. His dad's like, I'm not going to buy you another set of trains. This is the last set of trains I'm buying you because you keep smashing them. I am not buying another one. So Spielberg's like, okay, well, let me borrow your 8mm camera. So he's like, I'm going to do it one last time because my dad said I'm not going to get another one, but I'm going to do it one more time. I'm going to film it. So he smashed them together. He filmed it. It's like, oh, that's awesome. Then it's like, but if I film it, I can watch it over and over and over again. So he watched it over and over and over and over again, and that's exactly what happened to me. I didn't smash trains together, but I made little tiny films. I made little things like I made a Titanic spoof. I made little films, and I watched them over and over, and I fell in love with the fact I'd make something and would just stare at it. Wow. I would fall in love with my creations. I have that what's the Greek character's name? The Greek story, not Papillion or Mammalian or the guy that creates the girl, the statue. He carves the girl out, right? I have that syndrome where I fall in love with my creations. That's how I got into video making. I figured, well, I should do this. Oh, Derek says Dolby Cinema occasionally does screenings of older films. The Matrix. Oh, that is so much cool. Yeah, I really hope that they start doing that. I know my old theater used to do like classics nights every 2 weeks or something. That's how I discovered. They did Rocky Horror. They do Rocky Horror twice a year. They do the whole thing, like throwing stuff at the screen, yelling at, not throwing stuff at the screen, but the whole deal. But Hand of Fear says, I used to build plastic spaceship models, paint them, and then stage crash sequences, destroy them. That's fun. Hey, 3D printing, I can do that now. Pygmalion, thank you, Margaret, maggot-minded Pygmalion. I've got a Pygmalion complex. I do fall in love with what I create. Uh, Rotoscope or green screen was looking at LCD screens, but too expensive. Yeah, only ways I've been able to do screens behind me is because they've gotten cheaper. Not only do I have a 4x5 Crown Victoria, I know that's a joke on my not the Crown, it's a Crown something or another, right? I got a Toyo too, some lying around here somewhere. But I gotta redo. I gotta clean this place up. Let's see. Can you turn lights on the flag by your mic? Yeah, let's see. I don't have any power though. I do have little switches here for the lights. I'd have to plug it in. But I do have lights on it. It's just really, really bright. And I also have, this is actually an old phone thing. It has a little ringer on it. I was able to wire it up so I could make it ring. I have little switches on it too. It's just a cool little. It has no purpose, no function other than this being kind of an old prop. Crown Graphic, thank you. That's what that's what it was. Crown Graphic, not Crown Crown Victoria. Although isn't there a camera called the Victoria something or other? Crown Victoria, no, Graphic Victoria. I don't know. Victoria also was a girl that I used to see. That not good. That didn't end well. What do you think about using projection during the filming? Have you ever used it? E.g. Bond Gold Girl using projection? Oh, like rear projection? I mean, it is a thing if it's possible. Like that's what we're doing right here. This is essentially rear projection, but a modern version. Do I do online coaching or something similar? I unfortunately have a help desk mentality, which means generally whenever somebody asks me a question, I will usually answer it. Which is why we do these AMAs. I enjoy like talking about stuff and hanging out with you guys and talking, answering questions. I find that more fun than anything else. I find that more fun answering your questions than it is writing my own topics. I'd rather talk to you guys. Hannah Fear says Victoria was a different brand that made 4x5 real. Okay. Yeah, the whole photo world is, at least the old analog photo world, is brand new to me. So like I'm coming from a space where I feel like I'm an expert in, which is video, modern digital video making, that kind of stuff. I'm pretty much an expert. But when you're an expert going into a field that you're not an expert on, it's like, wow, I get the experience of feeling like a noob going into these new things. And I guess for your own ego, if you brand your ego in a way that I know filmmaking, so therefore I'm an expert in filmmaking, you got to let that go when you're going into a different field like analog photography. You just completely noob, all the newbie questions apply to you. I'm the same way with 3D printing. I'm just learning and enjoying it. I'm enjoying not being the expert that's jaded and just seeing new stuff. Anyhow, a little bit into my weird insight. Okay, well, it is 11:18 here on my coast. I need to go run to get my mom some dinner and take her to physical therapy. Actually, I don't need to take her to physical therapy. I am going to meet with her caretakers. Got a caretaker come in every couple of days to kind of take care of things. I get to meet with them and before she goes to physical therapy. So a few more questions or a few more minutes here, and we will wrap it up here. But yeah, I will be back every Wednesdays. I'm trying to do them sometime on Wednesday. Again, a lot of this too is A/B testing, seeing what works and what doesn't. If I find a time that does seem to work better than others, then I will probably end up doing it that time. Although I know for some reason I got a lot of Europeans on here, so you guys like it when I do it in the morning, which is more like your evening time. Derek just asked, there doesn't seem to be a standard for IMAX screens. I went to one in San Diego. Yeah, the regular widescreen. How dare they call it IMAX? Yeah, IMAX is sort of a weird term. It's not particularly. There's IMAX 4x3. There's IMAX widescreen. There's all kinds of IMAXs. I'm sure I should probably do a video on that and research it and tell you exactly what IMAX really means when they say IMAX. Hannah Fear says Graflex, which made Speed Crown graphics, were pretty ubiquitous, though. They made most press cameras from pre-World War II. Every time you see in those old movies, when you see the guy, look here, Kappa, it's a Crown graphic, right? So I'm excited. I've only shot a couple things with it. I've actually shot one. I shot something out here in my town. I did. It's a really cool photo of my old theater, the theater in Old Town here in Temecula, and I had that printed at Costco. And then I was like, oh, this is great. I can go to Costco and print my prints, and they're relatively inexpensive. I can just print them, send it to them, pick them up like in a couple hours. They'll be done. And now Costco just announced that they stopped their printing services. So, shoot. I guess it's back to using my old Epson printers to print them up. There you go. IMAX is a company, and there is 70 film IMAX digital. IMAX, which is wider, uses a smaller screen. Yeah, there's no. Yeah, like I said, there's no. It's a company. It's like Xerox. You know, there is a. I mean, IMAX. Obviously, you can't. You're not Kodak. You're not making IMAX. Now, maybe are they making IMAX film? Maybe they are. But there, you know, there's not another company that's IMAX. Anyhow. Oh, thanks for watching that yellow video. Yeah, that was a fun video to do. I'm finding myself being more intrigued by yellow. I think Victor Bart too. You're talking about using yellow in your stuff. I don't know. I kind of like it. I kind of like. I should use more of this yellow. So you want to record a restaurant video, but not sure how to set DOF so everything is going to be in focus. Use a wide lens. Here's the tips. Use a wide lens. A wider lens, or zoom all the way out if you're using a regular camera. Wide lens, and then smaller aperture like f5, f8. You know, as high as you can go. Well, not as high as you can go, but like f8, f10, somewhere in that range, and that'll get you most of the way there. Then you're really pretty much it. Victor, your 18-wheel, you got an 18-wheel truck. Your cars, man, are so cool. Your setup is so cool. I've seen it on Facebook, Victor. Like when I see your workspace, it's like, damn, dude, I'm so jealous of your workspace. It's like neat and productive. Mine is it's like literally a FEMA's a disaster area. Anyhow, all right. Well, that's my compliment to Victor Bart. Have a good day. I have to get going. I have to take care of some things. And yeah, we'll be back next Wednesday. Look out for a video from me probably this week, maybe next week early, and on streaming multi-camera. And we will be talking to you guys later. See you now. Oh, I can turn the music on. Let's get some music. And this is very unprofessional. I'm a professional. Why am I not doing this better job? There we go. And music out. All right, guys, take care. Don't forget, hit the subscribe button, Patreon, all that stuff. Bye.